Cybertron, our home. For generations it has been a peaceful world, until pride and a lust for power divided us. Now we fight enemies who were once our brothers. Our tragic war has ravaged Cybertron.
It is a necessary war to return us to glory.
The Autobots will never sacrifice freedom.
The Decepticons will bring this world to order!
Our defeat would mean the end of everything.
My victory will mark a brilliant new beginning!
One shall stand.
One shall fall.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So, I want to get something off my chest, but I'm not the biggest fan of Gen 1 Transformers.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Okay, before you guys downvote me into oblivion, let me explain why. The original Transformers cartoon ran between 1984 and 1990, with the series coming to an end right when I was born. While I vaguely remember seeing the toys in stores, I didn't see reruns of the original show until I was older. Instead, the series I grew up with and ended up attached to was Yeah, there's an obvious bias here, but comparing the two series, Beast Wars was just better in my opinion. The story was more interesting, the characters were written better, shout out to the GOAT, Dinobot, and the CGI was eye-grabbing for the time, even if it hasn't aged well. It's not a perfect series for sure, and its sequel series, Beast Machines, kinda fumbled the ball, but overall, I still like it. Also, I was obsessed with the toys. I had to beg my parents constantly to buy me more and more of them, Cheetor and Silverbolt being my absolute favorites. It wasn't until the 2000s that I really started getting into the normal Transformers series, and its characters who turn into vehicles and not animals. Truck, not monkey, am I right, guys? And no, it wasn't because of Bayformers, though I still love the original 2007 movie. It was actually the Robots in Disguise cartoon, and then later Transformers Armada, that got me into the traditional format of the series. While these are all different continuities, they still maintain the same story of rival factions of giant alien robots at war with each other. The heroic Autobots wage their battle against the evil forces of the Decepticons. Despite being just another cartoon designed to sell toys to kids in the 80s, looking like it would fade away as just another fad, it's amazing to see the franchise still so strong decades after its debut. Different toy lines, cartoons, comics, novels, live-action movies, and of course, video games. Transformers video games are all over the scale in terms of quality. You got the crushingly unfair Transformers game on NES, the god-awful Beast Wars Transmetal fighting game on N64 and PS1. I actually rented that abomination from Blockbuster when I was a kid. You should have seen how deflated younger me was when I played it and saw how terrible it was. That was probably the first time a game I was excited for disappointed me so badly. So much so, I went back to Blockbuster that same day and ordered to exchange it for something else. And then, skipping ahead to 2010, we received what's considered one of the best Transformers games, War for Cybertron, a game that did so well it would get a sequel a few years later, Fall of Cybertron, considered to be equally as good if not better than the original. The games completely flew under my radar when they initially released, probably because I was playing Red Dead Redemption and Xenoblade Chronicles at the time. Are these games overhyped by Transformers fanboys? Or is there more to them than meets the eye? Well, let's transform and roll out as I take a look at War for Cybertron. When it comes to Transformers, from the original cartoon to most of the different incarnations since then, the setting is almost exclusively on Earth. The heroic giant robots known as the Autobots make friends with humanity, and vow to protect them from the evil giant robots, the Decepticons. Shenanigans ensue. But what brought these two groups to our world in the first place? In the backstory for the original series, the Autobots fought a war with the Decepticons over control of their planet. A war that was waged for millions of years. Holy shit, that's insanely long. And ended with the Decepticons winning, but Cybertron being decimated as a result. The Autobots would flee their homeworld, with one group of them led by Optimus Prime taking refuge on Earth. The Decepticons, led by Megatron, would then invade the planet as Cybertron was depleted of its most precious resource, Energon, which the giant robots used to fuel themselves, their cities, their technology, and weapons. So the Decepticons attack the humans, hoping to siphon the power and electricity they create, along with digging up the natural Energon deposits on the planet. This backstory of a war spanning millions of years is the sole focus of War for Cybertron. Oh hey, that's why they called it that, huh? The game shows us what planet Cybertron used to be like before it got messed up, how the war started, the epic struggles between the Autobots and Decepticons, and ultimately how the Decepticons came out on top. And let me tell ya, I was totally hooked on the focus just being on the Transformers and their world. Finally, no more annoying human characters stealing the spotlight, and only being good at screaming. Optimus! What makes it even sweeter is that we get to experience the game from both sides of the conflict, the game letting you play as both the Autobots and Decepticons. So one quick little thing I want to get out of the way is that I'm playing the PS3 version of the game, which isn't optimized all that well, with some noticeable loading times, drops in frame rate, textures that load slowly, if at all, constant stuttering, and some occasional freezing. Also, I'm not sure if it's a bug or not, but the background music for levels just starts and stops playing out of nowhere instead of looping. It didn't negatively impact my playthrough all that much, outside of the one time a level glitched, failed to load its assets and causing me to fall to my death. So if you're looking for a smoother experience, hunt down the Xbox 360 version of the game, assuming you have a 360 to play it on at all, as it's not Xbox Series X compatible in the least. There's also a PC version, but that's no longer for sale and apparently a god-awful port, so don't even bother with that one. War for Cybertron is a third-person shooter. It's single-player campaign made up of 10 chapters, with the first half dedicated to the Decepticons and the second half to the Autobots. Levels are fairly linear, funneling you through an area as you shoot your way, picking up new weapons, refilling your ammo, or healing yourself by picking up Energon, along with being able to transform into your vehicle mode to move faster, and traverse certain sections you couldn't do in your main robot form. Beginning each level, you'll have your choice of one of 3 Transformers to control, with the other 2 serving as AI-controlled companions to assist you. While their competency in combat leaves a lot to be desired, the AI-controlled companions are effectively immortal during the single-player campaign, and don't need to be babysat, which is a godsend because they can be pretty dumb, getting stuck on walls or jumping down into instant death pits. Though, if you got a friend who's free, you can play the entire story in co-op instead. The playable characters are divided up into 4 classes, each one serving a different function with different abilities that support the squad. First you have the Scout class, which consists of fast and agile Transformers that excel at reconnaissance and hit-and-run tactics. They're equipped with long-range weapons such as sniper rifles, allowing them to pick off enemies from a distance. The Scout's special ability allows them to hide from enemies by cloaking themselves, or using a dash to close the distance, dodge attacks, or run away to regroup. Next we got the Soldier class, the warriors and main damage dealers. They have decent mobility and the best offense of the 4 classes. Soldiers excel at mid-range combat thanks to weapons like assault rifles and shotguns. And their special ability focuses on buffing themselves, temporarily increasing their damage output and durability. Then we got the Scientist class, basically the medic class of the game. While lacking in combat skill, they make up for it for being a solid support for the team. Their abilities focus on healing their allies or providing shields to protect them. And finally, the Leader class, which focuses on supporting the squad and crowd controlling enemies. Their abilities being able to buff the offense and defense of their team, or debuffing the enemies by slowing them down or preventing them from transforming. Now all these class differences I went over are more important in online multiplayer, where your weapon loadout is restricted by class and you have to synergize with other players to build a balanced squad. In single player, your starting character and class will determine your initial loadout, but you can't swap out weapons to any others you find regardless of class. Though you can't swap out your special abilities, each character being locked to only 2. So my channel strictly focuses on the single player experiences of the games I review. If a game features some sort of multiplayer, I'll usually give it a passing mention but never really go in depth with it, mainly because I suck at competitive games, and properly analyzing the multiplayer of a given game can be tough without spending a decent amount of time playing it, or finding a group to play with. So don't expect any videos on Call of Duty in the future, unless it's squarely focused on the single player story, or zombies. However, a big draw of War for Cybertron is its multiplayer, with a rather robust online mode similar to COD, being able to create your own character, level them up, unlock more abilities and weapons, and customize your loadout. Unfortunately, the official servers were taken offline years ago, so you can't actually experience the multiplayer anymore. That was until a band of dedicated fans worked together to launch the Transformers Re-Energized server project, which will allow you to go online on PC and PS3. Sorry 360 fans, doesn't look like there's a solution for you guys yet. You have to go into the network settings of your PS3 and change the primary and secondary DNS in order for it to work. I won't go over the steps, but I'll link the video by Commodin Cam that walks you through how to do it. Just make sure you check his pinned comment for the updated DNS numbers. Your results may vary though, as there are a lot of recent comments from people claiming they were unable to launch the multiplayer. However, if you do get on, like any online game, you need other people online or hosting a group to actually get a match going. So unless you have a few friends who own the game and follow the same steps to go online, you'll end up driving around in an empty lobby. You do have the option of joining the Re-Energized Discord server and seeing if anyone wants to play online or host a match. I'll link their Discord server down below too. I'm not quite sure when the server is most active, as despite joining and trying to get a multiplayer group going, I wasn't able to actually play online with someone. Since I'm a bit strapped for free time now that I'm back from vacation, I didn't really have the option to wait or keep trying, so I'll have to make do with some borrowed footage and my scuffed solo escalation gameplay. If I ever get around to Fall of Cybertron, maybe I could talk a few friends into buying the game. That, or putting a call out to my loyal, reliable, and not to mention attractive subscribers, like you. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. First up is Escalation, which is your standard horde/zombies-like mode. Team up with your friends to fight off waves of Transformers, using the energon you collect to buy more ammo, heal yourself, open doors, and buy better weapons. Pretty sure this mode is balanced around having a full team, as I didn't survive for very long playing by myself. Escalation is the only mode that you can play as the Transformers from the campaign, as the standard multiplayer has you using your own custom Transformer. The multiplayer modes are pretty standard stuff. You got Team Deathmatch, where you play as either the Autobots or Decepticons, killing the opposing team and winning when your side hits 40 kills. Then regular Deathmatch, standard free-for-all mode where it's every bot for himself. First to 20 kills wins. Conquest, which is basically domination from Call of Duty. Fight to take control of 3 points on the map, holding it as long as you can till either side hits 400 points to win. Code of Power, which is your standard capture the flag mode. Countdown to Extinction, where you need to plant a bomb in the enemy base 3 times. Sorta like Search and Destroy from COD. And finally, Power Struggle, which is your standard King of the Hill mode. Honestly, it really looks like a fun time. So I can understand why the re-energized team worked so hard to get a server up for fans to play again. I didn't get to try it out in time for this video, but maybe I'll try getting into a match again. I'm absolutely going to get bodied, but I still have fun in COD, and I suck at that too. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the story.
Civil war has ravaged Cybertron, homeworld to the Transformers, for millions of years. Megatron, leader of the Decepticons, recently discovered an ancient power that will give him the edge to win over the hated Autobots. Called Dark Energon, this power remains locked away in an orbital station under the protection of a Sky Commander named Starscream.
Starscream wouldn't fight with such desperation if the legends weren't true.
Lord Megatron, you're certain it's here?
I am certain, Barricade. And when I find it, the balance of this war with the Autobots will finally tip in my favor. Lord Megatron, stabilizers are failing. Maintain your heading, Brawl. Do not falter.
Sublight engines are offline. Shields at 15%.
Reroute all power to forward guns and thrusters. Full speed ahead.
But sir, that's suicide!
Any further objections? Ram this warship straight into the heart of that station!
As explained by our buddy Steve Bloom, Megatron is after Dark Energon in order to harness its power to help him win the war against the Autobots. After a rough crash landing, he and his cronies storm the space station in search of the stuff. Something I should point out is that War for Cybertron doesn't have a traditional tutorial level. Instead, you have to pause the game and read up through the small tutorial blurbs in order to learn the controls, how to restock ammo, heal yourself, etc. I'm a bit mixed on it, as on the one hand, the game is simple enough to pick up and play that you can figure out what you're doing after a few minutes of messing around. On the other hand, maybe an optional tutorial level you could boot up would have worked better, treating it like a training sim or something, letting the player engage with the game as they learn, as opposed to stopping to read for a few minutes. You know what's hilarious? Despite the fact Megatron is part of the leader class, which specializes in buffing and supporting allies, none of his abilities during the campaign actually assist his fellow Decepticons. He has one move that lets him hover in place to maneuver around and shoot at his enemies, while the other one will let him drain them of their health to heal himself. Gotta give credit to the devs for staying true to his character, as pretty much every version of Megatron is a self-centered asshole obsessed with power and who is a terrible leader. The Decepticons usually only ever follow him out of fear and because of how strong he is. This is reflected throughout the campaign as his cronies are terrified of delivering bad news, get belittled for the tiniest of mistakes, and will actively question his leadership abilities, though only out of earshot. Megatron himself will ignore or blame others for his mistakes, leave his fellow Decepticons to die, and even when they're outnumbered and losing the fight, he threatens to execute anyone who tries to surrender or run away. Now, unlike I usually do, I'm not really going to go over every step of my playthrough, as each level is fairly linear, having you get into engagements with other Transformers, usually needing you to clear a room before you can head to the next objective. Sometimes you'll need to shoot locks, hold the line using a turret, or transform into your vehicle mode in order to get through an area. To keep it from being too repetitive and boring, they do introduce different types of enemies to fight. Outside the standard grunts who go down fast, you have some that activate a blue shield around themselves, only being able to damage and kill them after you shoot through it. These guys can be mildly annoying, as they can reactivate their shields if you don't kill them fast enough, forcing you to do the whole thing again. Next, we got these bigger and beefier Transformers called Brutes. They use a large mace and shield and have a shockwave attack you need to jump over. In order to actually kill them, you need to strafe around them and shoot their glowing backpacks till it blows them up. Next, we got the Cloakers. These little guys make themselves invisible like the Predator, usually attacking in groups. And like the Predator, the best way to deal with them is to unload everything you have in every direction. Or just wait for them to give away their position when they attack. Then we got the Destroyer, which is honestly more like a mini-boss, which starts off engagements in its tank mode, which is impervious to all damage unless you hit the glowing part on the back of it. And once you do enough damage, it'll shift into its robot mode. While you can hurt it now, this thing will unload a lot more firepower on you, so you either need to find cover to protect yourself, or hope one of your squad mates keeps aggro on him. Finally, there's the Titan, which is about as big as a brute, incredibly slow, but carries a turret that can shred you to pieces. The rest of the enemies are just different versions of your standard grunt, some equipped with different weapons, some that will dash around in vehicle form, or attack from the air in jet form.
Megatron! I thought you'd be scrap metal by now. Your survival intrigues me.
I shall not be denied, Starscream. Surrender your Dark Energon program to me immediately!
Dark Energon? Are you mad? Dark Energon brings only death and chaos!
I am counting on it.
It's kind of funny to think there was a time Starscream wasn't a Decepticon, as the way he talks and acts just screams scummy backstabber. Like, why would the Autobots ever put a guy like him in charge of something supposedly as dangerous as Dark Energon? Actually, was it the Autobots? This whole level they call it Starscream Station, and they never outright say he's part of them. I guess he could be part of a neutral faction. I always kind of forget that there are Transformers who never chose a side, or were part of their own group. The original cartoon and the movies never really explored that idea. Speaking of the Gen 1 cartoon, while this game has a lot of callbacks, references, and characters to the original series, this game isn't a prequel to the show, and apparently is meant to be a prequel to the Transformers Prime series that debuted that same year on the hub. Keyword there is meant to be, as a lot of the things in that show contradicts or happen differently than what happened in the games. Looks like this confusion was caused by Hasbro, as they most likely used the success of the game as a way to promote the series. And then they walked it back by claiming all their different Transformers properties were all part of some kind of expanded universe. Whatever, either way I don't think you need to watch the show to enjoy this game. Skipping ahead towards the end of the level, Megatron and the boys find the Dark Energon reactor, and despite the multiple warnings he received that it's too dangerous and uncontrollable, Megatron hops into the reactor to absorb its power. It goes as well as you'd expect.
You arrogant fool! No one has ever survived direct contact! What? This isn't possible! No! No one can control Dark Energon! It dominates and destroys everything it touches!
I am the Dominator! I am the Destroyer! I am Megatron!
What, did you think it would destroy him? Come on, if that happened this game would only be an hour long. Now juiced up on evil energy, and able to create purple crystals, Starscream falls to his knees, kisses Megatron's ass, and vows to serve him in exchange for learning to use Dark Energon too. Since this is Starscream, his defining character trait in every continuity being how he wants to betray Megatron and take over the Decepticons, we know he's basically full of shit. But for now, he pretends to be loyal, informing Megatron on how he can produce more Dark Energon as we move on to the next chapter. Here, Starscream and his minions will assault the production facility where the Energon Bridge is located, successfully turning it on and powering the orbital station with Dark Energon. Before Megatron can infect all of planet Cybertron with it, he'll need to get the key to the Omega Gate that blocks the way to the planet's core. Megs will launch an assault on Iacon City, home of the Autobots, in order to take the key from their leader, Zeta Prime. This level had so many issues when I was playing through it. The stuttering and freezing I mentioned earlier was at its worst here. Not only that, but it kept screwing with my recording software, causing it to restart several times when I played. If I had to take a guess why, it's probably because all the action, effects, and characters on screen during this whole level ended up straining my PS3.
Finally, the Omega Key is within my... What? Did you really think it would be that easy? Come down here, Zeta Prime, and I will give you the answer. I shall remain where I am. This vantage point will provide an excellent view of your destruction.
The end of this level will bring us face to face with Zeta Prime, giving us our first boss battle. He'll hop into a mechanism that controls the security in the room, spawning an energy shield around himself that makes him immune to damage. Zeta Prime will fight by creating Energon clones of himself and trying to crush the Decepticons with hydraulic presses. It's a simple fight. The Energon clones are pretty squishy, and as long as you're paying attention to the ground, you can dodge the presses before it kills you. The level is also kind enough to spawn ammo and Energon cubes, so you don't end up in an unwinnable situation. Now, to actually win this fight, you need to wait till Zeta Prime exhausts his machine's power, causing his reactor to become exposed and vulnerable to attack as he recharges it. Then just repeat the process of surviving his attacks and attack the reactor some more till the boss fight is over. Despite defeating the leader of the Autobots and getting his hand on the key, Megatron has been bamboozled.
Your spies were misinformed, Megatron. That device only activates the key to the core. But don't worry, the Omega Key will come to you. Omega activated. Power optimal. Mission: destroy Megatron.
Omega Supreme is the greatest weapon of the Autobots. It's a giant transformer that guards the gate that leads to the planet's core. Well, actually, all the Transformers are giants. Since we're seeing the world from their perspective, it's easy to forget the actual scale of their race and their world. But Omega Supreme is basically kaiju-sized, powerful and near unstoppable as he grabs and tosses Megatron's ship out of the sky like nothing. Luckily for Megs, he's got plot armor, so he walks out of the wreck unscathed. Though, not everyone knows that, as Starscream is quick to capitalize on his leader's supposed demise.
To all Decepticons who fight for the glory of Cybertron, Megatron has fallen. I, Starscream, have taken my rightful place as your leader!
Starscream, you half-wit! I still function! A fact you shall regret when I choke the life out of you! Now, I order you to deploy ships for immediate evacuation!
Starscream cannot hear you, Megatron. All communication to the surface has been jammed.
Let's head for that lift before that idiot Starscream causes irreparable harm.
Considering Megatron goes off on any Decepticon that disobeys him or undermines his command, why the hell does he let Starscream get away with it? I mean, yeah, he did that in Gen 1 too, until the movie where he came back as Galvatron to take leadership back from Starscream. I don't know. Maybe he knows Starscream is all talk, or it just amuses him that this idiot thinks he could ever lead. The bulk of this level is all about trying to outrun Omega Supreme, and finding some way to stop him and get him to open the Omega Gate. This will lead into a boss fight with him in his vehicle mode, where we'll man some turrets strong enough to punch through his armor. Once he crashes, Megatron will press the fight, taking us into the second stage of his boss fight, where we fight Omega Supreme in his robot mode. Due to his size and firepower, he needs to constantly recharge himself with Energon batteries. So the goal this time is to avoid his attacks, corrupt the batteries with Dark Energon, which will make him vulnerable when he uses them. Then you just need to unload into him while you can and repeat the process a few more times till he finally goes down.
At last, the core of Cybertron is mine! Are the corruptors in place?
Yes, Lord Megatron.
Then let it begin! A glorious new age is upon us, my brethren. With Dark Energon infused into the core, Cybertron is mine to command!
This brings an end to the Decepticon campaign, as Megatron succeeds in his plan of corrupting the planet with Dark Energon. Now let's move on to the Autobots campaign and see what our heroes can do to fight back.
You're a skilled fighter, but you shouldn't be out here alone. Autobots are no longer safe in Iacon.
The Decepticons control the airwaves. The only secure way to communicate is by messenger. I volunteered. Name's Bumblebee.
Ratchet, this Autobot needs repairs.
Be still. I'll get you fixed up.
What? No, there's no time! I need to find the Autobot called Optimus. I have important information for him.
I am Optimus.
You're... Sir, it pains me to tell you this, but our leader, Zeta Prime, is dead.
Megatron.
If B sounds familiar, that's because the spunky young Autobot is voiced by Ichigo Kurosaki himself, Johnny Young Bosch. And of course, we got Peter Cullen reprising his iconic role as Optimus, though he hasn't ascended to be the leader of the Autobots yet, mostly because Zeta Prime is the one in charge. While he does take temporary command of the Autobots when Bumblebee reveals that Zeta is dead, this version of the heroic Autobot doesn't seem keen on becoming a Prime and a true leader. This is despite the fact that just about every Autobot we meet shows undying respect for him and thinks he's perfect for the job. Optimus is very unsure of himself and doesn't feel suited to be leader. It's not properly explained why, but a later conversation with Megatron seems to imply something in the past between them has led to these feelings of self-doubt that he has now. I'm assuming it gets explored and explained in Fall of Cybertron, and it wasn't something I missed in the game's manual. Jetfire will call soon after Optimus takes command, begging for aerial support. So our next objective is to turn on Iacon City's planetary guns.
A Decepticon war machine. I've seen these in the archives. They're used to dispense Dark Energon.
Partway through our journey through the war-torn city, we'll get into a boss fight with one of the Decepticons' war machines. We have to disable its legs in order to expose its core to damage it, all the while being constantly on the move as it has a Dark Energon beam that can instantly kill you if it connects. Eventually making it to the planetary guns, we run into an old friend of ours.
Trying to restore your precious grid, Autobots? How pathetic.
Starscream is a considerably more annoying boss fight than the War Machine, as this asshole is constantly flying around the arena, barely holding still long enough to actually damage him, so it really drags out the fight. After kicking his ass, he'll run away and we'll get those planetary guns online to give the Autobots a fighting chance. We'll then receive a transmission from Zeta Prime, who turns out isn't dead after all, and is being held captive at Megatron's Kaon prison complex. Despite verifying that the signal does belong to their leader, Ratchet and Bumblebee are quick to point out it's almost definitely a trap by Megatron. Optimus agrees but can't abandon his friend, formulating a plan to get into the prison and break out their leader.
Commence prisoner transfer. For the glory of Megatron! Move it, Autobots!
Yikes. Okay, so this level may have been the one with the most stuttering and issues. It didn't look this bad while I was playing it, but I guess it messed up my recording again. Going to have to borrow some footage so you guys don't feel like you're having a stroke. Instead of storming the heavily defended prison complex, good old Optimus prefers a more subtle approach, getting himself, Bumblebee, and Ratchet captured to infiltrate the place. This level shakes things up a bit, at least at first, as after we're freed by air raid, we need to move through the prison with only our melee weapons, till we can get our hands on some guns. Unfortunately, your melee kinda sucks, and the game doesn't do anything interesting like make you play stealthily or distract Decepticons. Just kill these Dark Energon spider things. After getting locked and loaded, we get our first face-to-face confrontation between Optimus and Megatron. Sort of.
Look at this. The prodigy returns. Megatron. I knew you couldn't resist rescuing Zeta Prime, which is why I orchestrated the entire thing. Zeta contacting you, your capture, all of it, all to bring you before me. Welcome to your defeat.
Unsurprisingly, it was a trap after all, with Meg sicking his Decepticons and more of those purple spiders on us. And we get thrown back in jail again? Really? We broke out once already, why the hell wouldn't you kill us this time? Guess we'll just break out again and cause a prison riot by releasing all our fellow Autobots. Maybe there's a reason this civil war went on for millions of years. Both sides are just complete idiots. Fast forward through our jailbreak and we finally make it to Zeta Prime. Wait, is that a boombox? Soundwave won't fight us directly, instead hiding behind this energy shield while periodically activating sentry turrets, and sicking his little robot buddies on us. Frenzy, Laserbeak, and Rumble. I didn't realize he had so many of these little guys. I always just thought it was the one little cassette tape robot. So the strategy to take him down is killing his little buddies, attacking Soundwave when he comes out to heal them, rinse and repeat. But oh no! It turns out he was draining Zeta Prime's life force this entire time. Carrying our dead leader to the Council of Autobots, Optimus has earned himself a promotion.
I will accept the burden with all that I am.
Rise, Optimus Prime, for you are the leader of the Autobots. You are the last Prime.
The first duty for the newly christened Optimus Prime is to head to the core of the planet and clear up that dark energon that's corrupting Cybertron. Before we can head down there, we'll first need to locate and save our supersized pal, Omega Supreme. Assaulting where the Decepticons are holding him, we do manage to free the big guy, but all that dark energon messed him up, so he'll need to be repaired before he can open the Omega Gate. This was probably the toughest level of the entire game, as you now have to guard your fellow Autobot Ratchet, as he works on healing Omega Supreme. Normally not too bad, but unfortunately Ratchet loses his immortality here, and can quickly go down if you don't take out the Decepticons attacking him. You're given a lot of weapons, ammo, energon grenades that can heal you, and even some drone turrets too, but it's still no cakewalk. The difficulty just comes from the overwhelming numbers, and how they tend to focus on squarely attacking Ratchet, made worse when Titans show up rocking their mobile turrets which can shred him and you to pieces in seconds. It's a very, very long sequence, but one that the game mercifully gives you checkpoints for, so if you fail you won't have to start from the beginning every single time. Once Omega Supreme is back up and running, he gives us a way down into the core of Cybertron, which is apparently full of space slugs. These big robo-worms are part of the planet's natural ecosystem, and are working to clear out the dark energon infesting the core. They're super friendly too, as they give the Autobots a lift and help move them through the area. Very, very slowly. It's not a leisurely stroll though, as we still have Decepticons to deal with, along with this big giant dark energon spider thing, which serves as the boss for this area. Squashing it, Optimus Prime finally makes it to the core. Unfortunately, we may be too late.
We're too late.
I can survive if I shut down my systems completely. But the process will take millions of years, during which Cybertron will be left cold and barren.
We must leave our home if we are to survive.
The line of primes has failed, yet hope still remains. I offer a portion of my spark to take with you to the stars. For as long as it survives, so shall I. Will you accept this responsibility, Optimus Prime?
I will.
Behold, the Matrix of Leadership. Cybertron recognizes and welcomes Optimus Prime, Keeper of the Matrix, leader of the free Autobots.
It's a bittersweet outcome, as while Cybertron will one day return to its former glory, but the Transformers will now have to abandon their home and head to the stars in order to survive. It's too bad that Megatron is a petty little asshole, as he uses his orbital station to shoot down anyone trying to flee the planet. It's up to Jetfire and his team to lead an assault on the orbital weapon to disable it and give the Autobots a chance to escape. The majority of this mission is spent in Jet mode, fighting our way through the station's defenses and working to destroy the large laser beam. Towards the end of the level, we'll find out a shocking revelation. This isn't a space station. No, we're actually inside a massive Decepticon.
You cannot stop me, little Autobots. I am Decepticon. I am your death.
Oh, great Primus! I think this gun is a Cybertronian!
I live to serve Megatron and to destroy Autobots.
With the laser cannon still active, and now aiming for Iacon City to destroy Optimus and all the Autobot spaceships, it's a race to get through Trypticon and destroy his transformation cog, which is apparently a part that all Transformers have and controls their ability to switch from robot and vehicle modes. Destroying it would force the massive Decepticon to switch to his robot mode. Once we pull it off, the threat still isn't over, as Mechagodzilla here is making a beeline for Iacon City, planning to smash into it like a meteor to kill everyone. Jetfire and the boys manage to destroy his jetpack though, knocking Trypticon out of orbit and saving the city.
Optimus, Trypticon is falling out of orbit!
We're tracking the descent, Silverbolt. We'll take it from here.
Despite missing Iacon City, the massive Decepticon is still a threat, Trypticon serving as the final battle of the game. Similar to his counterpart Omega Supreme, his massive size and armor makes it close to impossible to hurt him with regular weapons. Instead, the first stage of the fight has you using levers to move Energon batteries over his shoulder weapons, shooting the batteries to break them, and damaging him with the excess Energon. Once his shoulder missiles are disabled, the second portion of the fight has you avoiding his attacks until he starts to overheat and exposes the exhaust ports on his ribs, giving you a weak point to attack. Do enough damage and he'll knock everyone down below for the final portion of the fight. He'll give you everything he has left, spawning dark Energon crystals, sicking those little spiders on you, and constantly firing energy attacks. Trypticon's only weakness this time are the power cores on his back, that take a lot of damage and will most likely have you running around the arena in search of ammo. This whole final fight with him is really intense, as you constantly have to be on the move and need to keep your eyes open to scour the battlefield for health and ammo, so don't be surprised if you die a few times. Once he's defeated, the game will leave us on a bit of a cliffhanger.
You did it, Prime. We did it, Ratchet. All of us. Many brothers were lost today, but thanks to our combined efforts, many more will live to find a home elsewhere.
Optimus, Megatron is still out there.
And as long as we remain here, we shall resist him. But in time, our turn will come to leave Cybertron as well. I have commissioned a new galactic transport for us, an Ark, in which we shall make our journey through the stars. No matter where we go, Cybertron will be with us.
And that was Transformers War for Cybertron. I've got to say, I had a lot of fun. If I'm being honest, the gameplay and level design isn't really anything to write home about. It's your standard third-person shooter, but with a Transformers skin applied to it. Though, it does add its own little charm that keeps it from being generic and forgettable. While the levels are completely linear and the objectives stay pretty much the same throughout the runtime, being able to play each level as different Transformers does give it a little bit of replay value. The story is solid, and I really enjoyed seeing both sides of the conflict. I'm a bit bummed we didn't have Optimus and Megatron fight each other, but I'm sure we'll get to that in the sequel. And hopefully an explanation on the past these two have with each other. It seems to me where the game really excels is its multiplayer. The different game modes, customization for your Transformers, along with unique weapons and special abilities, creates a really fun experience. It's unfortunate I didn't get to truly experience it myself, but from what I've heard online and seen in videos, it really does look like a blast. Due to the technical issues I encountered and the fact the official multiplayer servers are offline, this game is seriously overdue for a remaster for modern systems. If you guys have been paying attention to the gaming news the last few days, you know this series recently had the spotlight shined on it. According to some Hasbro rep, they'd love to bring this game back, but Activision Blizzard lost the source code to it, which seems par for the course for them really. But then a few days later they clapped back and said, no, they do have the source code. So maybe there's a chance we get this series back. It's not going to happen until that purchase deal with Microsoft goes through though. But Microsoft brought back the servers for the older Call of Duty games, so I could see them doing something similar for this series. Paying Hasbro for the license and then fixing it up to put on Game Pass. Fingers crossed. Overall, War for Cybertron, while feeling like your average third-person shooter at times, has its own spin to the genre to keep it feeling unique. A game that is a true love letter to the Transformers franchise. One that wasn't embarrassed about what it is like the live-action movies of the time. Instead, embracing everything the fans of the original series fell in love with, giving us a darker and more mature story that isn't just giant robots beating each other up every week. I'm excited to see where the story takes us in Fall for Cybertron, and hopefully I'll get to visit that game for the channel soon. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, guys. It feels good to be back. I really needed that little vacation. I've taken several breaks since my channel started to blow up and grow, but this is the first time in years I actually went on a proper vacation. I didn't go anywhere particularly fancy. I just went to visit Oregon to do some hiking and check out the sights in Portland. I kinda chose the place on a whim. I've been wanting to revisit the West Coast, but somewhere that wasn't California again. First solo trip in a while too, as I usually visit somewhere with friends or a place a friend is currently living, mainly so I can bum off their couch and save cash on a hotel. I said it before, but it's all thanks to you guys. This growth on the channel and actually making money from my videos made it possible to actually afford a vacation, even a modest one. So thanks again, guys. I couldn't do any of this without you. Next up is the big one, Grand Theft Auto 5. After my experience with San Andreas back in December, I knew this would be a big video, so I got to work last month recording my footage and starting my script. Not sure how long this one is going to be, possibly somewhere between the original GTA 4 video and San Andreas. As well, at first, I wasn't sure there would be much for me to go over, other than my usual style of going through the missions. There are a lot of talking points that keep popping up in my notes as I play, so I want to be as thorough and as fair as I can with this game, especially since I wasn't the biggest fan when I first played. This month marks the 3-year anniversary for my channel. It's wild just how much time has passed since I first started. I won't dwell on it too much here, but I plan to make a separate video celebrating the event and doing a channel update of sorts. Again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and comment down below. Which Transformers cartoon is your favorite? Did you own the toys? Do you like the Michael Bay movies? Give me your thoughts down below. And if you're new to the channel, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. Turn on that notification bell so you'll know the moment my next video drops, and check out the recommended videos here at the end. I'm FuzzySlippers, and I'll see you later. Peace.